My name is Anna Carter, and I am 31 years old. I design things that hold up under pressure, chairs that won't wobble, shelves that won't bow, joints that won't betray the weight of what you keep. People think industrial design is about objects. It's not. It's about stress, where it accumulates, how it travels, the exact moment a structure chooses silence or collapse. I used to think relationships were different. They're not. They creak long before they break. Ethan Blake, my boyfriend, is 30 and stunning in a way that photographs forgive before the world does. He used to work at an agency, soft launching products, and perfecting captions for other people's dreams. 6 months ago, he quit to chase his own. We made an agreement, my idea, actually. I would cover the mortgage, utilities, and groceries for exactly half a year, so he had runway to build the brand he swore was one big push from ignition. He would use his savings for business expenses, a phrase I learned can stretch far enough to cover designer sneakers, sponsored dinners that never materialized, and a ring light bright enough to interrogate a planet. I wanted to believe in him. Belief is a luxury people like me don't admit we ache for. I don't do leaps of faith. I build bridges. But I told myself 6 months wasn't a leap. It was a span I could engineer. I put numbers into spreadsheets, made rules for the exceptions, laid out our plan in a neat one-page PDF he never opened. Ethan promised me momentum. I promised him time. The first crack wasn't even about money. It was tone, the new vocabulary he adopted, aesthetic, optics, aspirational. He began to call our home a set. My workbench was cluttered. The oak coffee table I'd built with my own hands was too heavy for the vibe. He started talking to me like I was an assistant he adored, but didn't want visible. A woman can tell when she's being moved off stage. They don't always push. Sometimes they just turn the lights away and wait for you to get the hint. Today, we're at the airport, and the cart I'm pushing has 3 suitcases Ethan swore he could carry. They're glossy and oversized, the kind that say, I am traveling for work, whether you are or not. His content creation trip, 3 weeks in Europe. Paris for a fragrance launch he wasn't invited to, but planned to orbit. Rome because the light. He rehearsed each location like lines. Let me take that, I say, reaching for the handle of the second suitcase as it threatens to slide. He smiles absently, thumbs tapping a DM, gaze fixed on a world that lives behind glass. Thanks, babe. We near the check-in line. That's when I see them. Lauren and Ashley, the friends of convenience who look like a sponsored post breathed them into existence. Hair undone in the expensive way, sneakers that have never met a puddle. They spot Ethan immediately and perform that brand of joy that photographs well, open-mouthed, eyes wide, hands fluttering up to their faces as if surprise must pass through the fingers to count. Ethan! Lauren calls, glancing at me as if I'm a regrettable watermark on his photo. He hesitates. I feel the hesitation physically, the way a floor feels when a beam sets. He goes to wave them over, then stops himself. The look he gives me is quick and pleading, the kind you give a server when you need the check to magically appear but don't want to be rude. It's a look that asks me to make this easy, again. Hey, he murmurs, voice low, smile tight. Maybe hang back a sec? I'll just... Hang back? I try to make it gentle. There is gentleness in me. I have not lost it. Not yet. He leans closer, lowers his voice like he's about to tell me that my zipper's down. Don't walk with me. I need to look... He glances at Lauren and Ashley, their phones already out like weapons disguised as mirrors. I need to look professional. I'll meet you after security. The words he doesn't say hang between us. Heavy as my oak table. You'll embarrass me. I nod as if he has told me something intelligent. Something helpful. My hands, absurdly, are still on the cart. My palms are warm from the friction of a load I shouldn't be carrying. I let go. You're right, I say softly. I have learned that the right words can sound like surrender and still be the fulcrum of a lever. I wouldn't want to. Relief rushes into his face so fast it makes him prettier. He kisses my cheek, a staged gratitude for an audience who is pretending not to watch. You're the best, he whispers, which in influencer dialect can mean anything from I love you to this lighting is unforgivable. I step back. He steers the cart away from me and toward them. The distance opens, foot by foot, and I feel it like temperature. Lauren laughs into her phone, the mic cupped just enough to catch his name. Ashley tucks her chin into her hoodie and positions herself at a 3/4 angle, the one that forgives. I watch them fold him into their frame. In the glass wall behind them, I see the reflection of us as we are. Ethan centered, me cleanly cropped out. Here is the thing about endings. They rarely announce themselves, but sometimes they do, like a single sentence sharpened into a blade. He didn't say, "You'll embarrass me," not in those exact words. He said, "Don't walk with me." The sentence is the same. One is cruel, the other is curated. I have always preferred honesty. I turn before the ache can climb into my eyes and still my face. I walk away, not dramatically, not with anger, with a steadiness that feels like finding my balance after months at sea. I head for the glass doors and the gray November light on the other side. Out there, the parking garage is cold and real and exactly as indifferent as I need it to be. As I cross the automatic threshold, my phone vibrates with a message from him, 3 hearts and a plane emoji, the kind he would send to followers after a brand paid for his seat. I put the phone in my pocket. Outside, the air smells faintly of rain and gasoline and the fried food from the airport cafe that never tastes as good as the smell promises. The world has a sound again. Traffic, wheels on concrete, a child somewhere crying because he has been promised something he cannot have right now. I stand for a moment and let all of it move through me. If you had watched me from the security camera, you'd have missed it. The exact second something inside me laid itself down and refused to carry another ounce. It didn't feel like a crash. It felt like an alignment. I have a gift for seeing where stress will go, how a joint will fail, when a shelf needs another bracket. In the terminal, I watched a picture come into focus. Ethan's dream is not a structure I can reinforce. It is a facade. You don't shore up a facade. You step back before it falls. On the drive home, I don't cry. It doesn't feel like a loss. It feels like a ledger. Evening out, after months of polite arithmetic, a part of me, the part with heat and childishness, imagines throwing his clothes on the lawn and texting his mother to come collect him like an unclaimed bag. But the larger part of me, the part that designs anchors into tables people will lean on years after I'm gone, knows that spectacle is not my language. Precision is. Red tail lights spool ahead of me. Wipers graze the windshield. Not quite necessary. I start a list out loud, half to the dashboard, half to myself. It's something I do when a project feels too big. Give it steps that sound harmless until they add up to a door you close and lock. Call dealership, I say. The car he flaunts lives on paper under my name. Call cleaning crew. His things occupy the second bedroom as if stage lights pay rent. Change passwords. I imagine the neatness of my email reclaiming the chaos of his logins. Storage unit, locks, one email. The words steady me. Every step a small, reversible act. That's how you begin, with motions you could forgive later if you changed your mind. Somewhere between the second and third stoplight, I know I won't. I pass a billboard that features a man smiling at nothing while holding a phone with the world in it. The tagline reads, "Be seen." I laugh, alone in my car, because somewhere in the terminal I had become invisible, and it turned out to be a relief. If I am honest, invisibility is the first freedom I've had in months. At home, I stand in the doorway and look at the life we arranged to look like someone else's. The ring lights in the spare room hang like moons with bad timing. The beige rug he insisted on makes the floor look apologetic. The coffee table I built sits exiled in the garage because it dominated the frame. I run my palm over the grain as if greeting a dog that knows my real name. There will be 1,000 small hurts in the days ahead. I know this. This is not a triumphant montage. It is a demolition with no music. He will call. His friends will perform their choreography of outrage. People will ask me if I'm sure, as if certainty is a door you enter and never leave. I'm not sure of many things, but I am sure of this. Love that needs you to be less is not love. It is lighting. I pull my laptop from my bag. The glow of the screen is the same glow that replaced our conversation months ago. My fingers hover over the keyboard. I do not type. Not yet. I am allowed one ceremony, even in a life that doesn't ask for them. I make tea. I take out the oak coffee table, slide it back into the living room where it was meant to be, and set the mug down on a coaster I carved the winter we moved in. It leaves no ring. I sit, and for the first time in months, I take up the space designed for me. Tomorrow, there will be phone calls and contracts and the kind of quiet that only arrives when a house exhales. There will be a single email composed in the cleanest language I know, and there will be a door I lock without apology. Tonight, there is only a room with good bones and a woman who finally trusts what she builds. He wanted me off camera. I have obliged. There's a particular silence that lives in a house once it's been emptied of love. It's not quiet, not really. It hums. The way a fridge hums after you've unplugged it, cooling air still circulating out of habit before it realizes no current remains. That's what I woke up to the morning after the airport. A hum. Ethan's toothbrush was still in the holder. His cologne, that too sweet amber scent that filled every room like a performance, waited on the counter. None of it looked abandoned. It looked paused, as if the world had hit record and forgotten to say cut. I stared at the mirror and saw a woman who'd quietly reached her limit. Not shattered, not sobbing, just done. People think rage burns hot, but real ending rage burns cold, like dry ice, soundless, heavy, impossible to touch. By 9 a.m., I was dressed, hair tied back, coffee in hand, and ready to begin the part of the story no one would ever film. Not revenge, not destruction, just removal. My first stop was West Point Motors, the dealership where I'd signed for the glossy black SUV Ethan called our car. He loved that car, the soft leather, the dashboard screen where he could see himself reflected as he filmed behind-the-wheel stories. He'd called it a symbol of our success. But it was mine, every payment, every registration document, all in my name. The salesman recognized me immediately. "Anna, hey, didn't expect to see you so soon." I smiled, polite, detached. "I'd like to sell it back, today." He blinked. "Everything okay?" "Perfectly," I said, handing over the keys. "Just simplifying." It was strange watching the car disappear down the service ramp, taillights blinking out like punctuation on the end of a sentence. The salesman returned with papers and a check that felt heavier than it should have. By the time I stepped back into the sunlight, I felt lighter. That was step 1. Step 2, the house. Ethan used to call it our creative space. He filmed product reviews on the kitchen island, skincare routines in the bathroom, fake waking up shots in our bed. Every corner had been staged. There wasn't an inch of this house that hadn't performed for someone else. So I called a professional cleaning and junk removal service, 2 brothers and a truck. "Hi," I said when the manager answered. "I need a complete reset." He laughed lightly. "So, deep clean?" "No," I replied. "A deep erase. Everything that doesn't belong to me. Gone. Furniture, clothes, equipment, the works." He hesitated. "That'll take a while. I'll double your rate if it's done by tomorrow." Money, I've learned, is the only language people don't misinterpret. By that afternoon, the crew arrived, 4 men in gray uniforms and gloves. They asked no questions. Tripod stands vanished first. Then the endless boxes of PR gifts Ethan never opened but kept stacked for background texture. The spare bedroom, his studio, was stripped bare by sunset. I stood in the doorway watching the walls come back into view. They were plain white, slightly scuffed, honest. I'd almost forgotten what that looked like. The manager approached, clipboard in hand. "Where do you want this sent?" "Storage," I said, and gave him the address of a unit I rented that morning. "Label it under Ethan Blake." By 7 p.m., the house looked foreign, spacious, but not empty, breathing again. Step 3, the digital cleanup. I made tea, opened in my laptop, and began reclaiming my life in pixels and passwords. Joint streaming accounts, reset, bank access, revoked, credit cards, frozen and reissued. Then came the part that made me smile. His website, the Empire of Filters. It was technically hosted under my business license because I'd set it up when we were still building a future together. I logged into the admin page. Hundreds of photos loaded. Ethan smiling in cities he hadn't paid to visit, holding drinks he didn't finish, wearing clothes he'd return after the photo. Each image was tagged with affiliate links, in collaboration with, words that used to make him beam. I could have deleted everything. One click, gone. But deletion would give him the satisfaction of a story. My jealous ex destroyed my career. I didn't want destruction. I wanted reflection. So I replaced the entire homepage with a single image, a white background, black serif font reading, Site under reconstruction, real life loading. No links, no portfolio, just honesty. I stared at it for a long minute. The emptiness looked good on him. That night, the quiet settled differently. The hum was fading. I ordered a simple dinner, sat on the floor with a sketchbook, and started planning the redesign of the spare room. It would be mine again. A studio, but for real work. The kind that leaves calluses, not captions. Ethan texted around midnight. Just landed in Paris. Insane energy here. You'd love it. Then another. How's my queen? Miss you already. I didn't respond. I simply muted the chat and placed the phone face down on the oak table. He'd have no idea the room behind me was already empty. Day 2. The cleaning crew finished ahead of schedule. When they left, the house felt new. The faint citrus of disinfectant replaced his cologne. Every echo sounded honest again. I moved through each room slowly, barefoot, touching surfaces that finally belonged only to me. Bathroom counter, clear. Closet, half full, breathing. Bedroom, neutral. In the living room, I noticed the faint outline on the wall where his motivation quote canvas once hung. If you want the crown, learn to bleed for it. I laughed softly. Then I took one of my charcoal pencils and wrote in tiny script beneath the mark, "Some thrones are just chairs in costume." Later that afternoon, I took the check from selling the car, opened a new account, and titled it Freedom Fund. Not out of pettiness, out of closure. It was the cost of clarity. Then, for the first time in months, I went outside without checking how I looked in the mirror. I met my friend Mia at a local cafe. She took one look at me and frowned. "You okay? You look different." "I am," I said simply. "Where's Ethan?" "Abroad." She hesitated. "You didn't go?" "No. He didn't want me to walk with him." The words left my mouth calmly, but Mia's expression changed from confusion to understanding in an instant. Her hand covered mine. "Good for you," she whispered. We talked for hours, about real things, not content calendars or camera angles. By the time I got home, the sky was dark, and my inbox was full of Ethan's updates. Selfies with champagne, location tags, hashtags about living dreams. I watched each one without emotion. Every post looked perfect. Every post looked lonely. That night, I drafted an email in my notes app. Not to send yet, just to have ready. Subject: regarding your return. It began. "Ethan, as per your request at the airport, I have ceased to walk beside you." I didn't finish it. Instead, I saved it under the folder name Pending Liberation. I slept deeply that night, wrapped not in blankets, but in silence. The good kind. The kind that hums like a house finally unplugged. Voiceover, closing. Some people need explosions to end a story. I prefer blueprints. You can take a house apart piece by piece, and if you do it carefully, the dust never even rises. Tomorrow, I'll start putting my life back together. Not the version that fits into a frame, but the one that finally fits me. Morning light hit differently now. It didn't leak through the blinds to frame a perfect photo. It spilled, unedited, across my floor. Dust floated in the air, unapologetically. For the first time in months, I didn't rush to hide it. The house was quieter, lighter, and raw. I liked it that way. Over coffee, I caught at my reflection in the blank TV screen. No makeup, hair a little wild, eyes alert. Not the woman who had spent half a year rehearsing normalcy beside a man who only lived through lenses. I didn't recognize this new version of myself yet, but I wanted to. The kitchen smelled like lemon polish and possibility. Step 4, rebuild. People think healing is about moving on. It's not. It's about moving in, back into your own body, your own decisions, your own voice. I started small. I ordered lumber. I reopened my design sketches that had been sitting untouched in a folder named Later. Later had arrived. The spare room that once hosted Ethan's fake studio became a real workshop. I rolled in my tools, sanded the floor, hung pegboards. My hands remembered the rhythm: measure, mark, cut, breathe. The smell of sawdust filled the air. Honest work smells like that. In the evenings, I replaced his decorative props with things that had meaning. My grandmother's quilt, a plant from my sister, a ceramic mug chipped at the rim. Imperfections that didn't need filters. Ethan's updates kept coming. Paris. Dreams don't chase themselves. Rome. When passion becomes your paycheck. Every post was a commercial pretending to be a confession. I didn't delete him. I didn't block him. I wanted to see the illusion unravel naturally. Watching it from a distance was like studying weather patterns. You can predict the storm, but not its damage. He texted twice more that week. Babe, do we still have that extra tripod cable? Don't forget to pay the internet bill, please. It's linked to your account. The nerve of the man. No, how are you? No, thank you. Just expectation, like muscle memory. I didn't reply. Silence was my new language. Step 5. Redefine. I took a long walk by the river, the kind I used to avoid because Ethan thought my sneakers weren't on brand. There were no cameras now, no performance. Just the sound of my footsteps, the smell of water and earth. I realized something simple but sharp. He hadn't ruined me. He'd just distracted me. All the things I'd once postponed, my art show, my solo trip, my business expansion, they were still waiting. He had been background noise, disguised as purpose. That night, I sat at my work table and opened the unsent email draft titled Pending Liberation. It was time. I adjusted the subject line, important information regarding your return. Then, word by word, I built my closure. Ethan, as per your request at the airport, I've stopped walking beside you. To that end, the following arrangements have been made. Your belongings have been professionally packed and moved to a secure storage facility. The address is 42 West Storage Way, access code 258I. The first month's fee is prepaid. The SUV you were driving has been sold. Ownership and financing were solely under my name. The locks on the house have been changed. You're free now, exactly as you wanted. I wish you the life you've been trying to perform. Anna. I reread it twice. No venom, no pettiness, just finality. Then I hit send. The soft click echoed in the room. The next morning, I loaded my suitcase into the back of a rental car, not the SUV, something smaller, simpler. Destination: Black Ridge Mountain Retreat, a place I'd bookmarked years ago, but never dared to book because Ethan didn't do camping or nature. It wasn't a luxury trip, it was detox in motion. As I drove, the city faded behind me. Billboards, traffic, noise, all replaced by winding roads and pine trees. The higher I climbed, the more my lungs remembered how to expand. At a scenic overlook, I stopped. Below, clouds spilled into valleys like unbottled smoke. My phone buzzed. 17 missed calls, 9 texts from Ethan, 3 from Lauren. I turned it off. Some silences deserve to be permanent. That evening, I unpacked my sketchbook and wrote across the first blank page. Rebrand, self-edition. Underneath, I listed what I wanted to design next. A life that doesn't need an audience. Work that leaves fingerprints, not filters. Love that doesn't flinch when unphotographed. I didn't cry that night. I didn't toast to freedom. I just slept, without replaying his voice in my head. Voiceover, soft, reflective. I used to think letting go was chaos, tearing things down until there was nothing left. Turns out letting go is order. It's sorting what's real from what only looked that way. When I woke up, the sunrise painted the sky in gold and smoke. My phone was still off, and for the first time in a very long time, the day ahead belonged entirely to me. They say what goes around comes around, but I've learned that sometimes what comes around just gets delivered later, like lost luggage finally catching up to the traveler who pretended it didn't exist. For Ethan, that delivery came the day he landed. I was still in the mountains when my phone, switched on briefly for the first time in days, lit up like a fire alarm. Dozens of missed calls, messages, and voice notes poured in, but I didn't open them. Not yet. I wasn't ready to let his noise back into my atmosphere. Instead, I called my friend Mia, the only person I'd told about the breakup. She answered on the first ring, voice already buzzing with the kind of thrill only the universe's perfect irony can bring. Anna, you're not going to believe what happened. Oh, I might, I said, smiling into my mug of instant coffee. Go on. She launched into it like a reporter on a breaking story. Ethan's flight had landed right on schedule. He'd posted a photo from the plane window, captioned, "Home is wherever the hustle takes you." Then, Mia said, he waited at arrivals for almost an hour. He kept scanning the crowd, phone in hand, clearly expecting me to materialize. When I didn't, he started calling, pacing, performing impatience in real time for anyone who might be watching. Finally, he wheeled his 3 massive suitcases out to the pickup area. No Uber would take all that luggage. He tried to call his influencer friends, Lauren and Ashley, but suddenly both were busy editing content. So he did what he always did when things didn't go his way. He panicked publicly. Mia's voice trembled between laughter and disbelief as she described it. He was literally shouting into his phone like, "Where are you, Anna? I'm freezing out here." I pictured him, standing under the fluorescent lights, wearing the designer jacket I bought him for his birthday, performing Heartbreak for an audience that had finally logged off. When he finally gave up, he took an overpriced airport cab back to the house. That was the moment I had been waiting for. The neighbor, Mrs. Donnelly, later texted me a single line that made me laugh out loud in the middle of the forest. "He's on the porch. The key doesn't work." Mia filled in the rest. Ethan tried the lock again and again, jiggling the handle like effort could undo consequence. When realization hit, he sat down on one of his giant suitcases, phone pressed to his ear, calling every number he knew. No one came. An hour later, his parents arrived. His mother scolding him loudly enough for the whole street to hear, his father red-faced, embarrassed, helping load the suitcases into the back of their car. Mrs. Donnelly said she'd never seen a grown man look so small. That night, his meltdown went digital. Ethan uploaded a long, tear-streaked Instagram story. Shaky voice, dramatic lighting, the works. He said I'd abandoned him, locked him out, stole his car, and threw away his dreams. The performance was textbook, half tragedy, half sales pitch. He ended the video with a plea. Don't let toxic people silence your passion. Within an hour, the comments section divided itself into predictable sides. Half the followers called me cruel. The other half asked why he couldn't stop filming even while crying. But what Ethan didn't know, what none of them knew, was that I had already made my move days before. Before leaving for the mountains, I'd quietly messaged a few mutual friends. Simple, factual, calm. Ethan and I have parted ways. Please don't believe everything you see online. He and I just want very different things. That was all it took. So when his sob story post went up, no one bit. The comments started turning against him. Wait, didn't she pay for everything? Bro, why did you call her an assistant on your live last month? Not the poor me act again. Within 24 hours, the narrative crumbled. And then came my favorite part, the website. When I'd taken control of Ethan's influencer page, I didn't delete it outright. I'd left one small surprise waiting for the moment he'd need to prove himself again. The morning after his public meltdown, his fans woke up to find that his once lavish portfolio, hundreds of curated travel shots and brand collabs, had been replaced by a single high-resolution image. A receipt from the junk removal service, the total circled in red. Below it, a single caption. Reality check in progress. Within minutes, screenshots spread like wildfire across influencer forums. Mia called me again, laughing so hard she could barely breathe. He's losing it. He posted a story saying his account was hacked by bitter energy. People are quoting him with clown emojis. I didn't laugh. Not out of coldness, out of relief. Because at that moment, it wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about balance restored. For the first time in a long time, truth didn't need my defense. It spoke perfectly well on its own. Later that evening, sitting on the porch of my cabin, I finally scrolled through his messages. Dozens of missed calls, long texts alternating between apology and rage. How could you do this to me? You ruined my image. We could have fixed this. Please answer. Please. I deleted them all. No response. Silence was the closure I owed both of us. By the end of that week, Ethan's content vanished. His account went private, his friends stopped tagging him, and the apology video he uploaded received more mockery than sympathy. His brand collapsed not because of me, but because, without me funding the fantasy, there was nothing left to film. Mia sent me one last update before I returned home. His parents came back yesterday, moved the rest of his stuff from the storage unit, looked tense. I could imagine the scene. Ethan standing there, watching his own life reduced to boxes, his parents loading them in silence, the echo of his own vanity following him like a ghost. It wasn't satisfaction I felt, it was symmetry. He once said, "Your life should look as good as it feels." Mine finally did, because now it looked honest. Voiceover, quiet, resolute. He wanted to control the narrative. But the truth doesn't need an audience, it just needs time. Some endings don't explode, They fade out quietly, like the static after a broadcast goes dark. And somewhere, in the silence of a house that finally belonged to me again, a woman was learning to live off screen. 4 months. That's how long it's been since Ethan's Europe trip ended, and my life quietly began again. The first few weeks after his meltdown were filled with noise, screenshots, gossip, hashtags. People love a downfall when it's dressed like drama. But eventually, the storm ran out of fuel. People moved on to the next viral tragedy, and Ethan's name stopped trending. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was clean. The house no longer echoed with performance. The rooms had grown into themselves, filled with warmth, texture, and quiet pride. The spare room, once his studio, was now my sanctuary. Wood shavings dusted the floor like snowfall, sketches lined the walls, and the table he once called too bulky stood proudly at the center. Its oak surface scarred, beautiful, real. I'd launched a small design collection called Grounded, furniture built from reclaimed wood, each piece stamped with a single line, made to last in a temporary world. Orders started slow. Then a blog picked it up. Then 2 more. And suddenly, I was doing interviews, not about heartbreak, but about craftsmanship. Ethan once said authenticity doesn't sell. Turns out it does. You just can't fake it. Sometimes people from our old social circles would message me, "Hey, Anna, saw your collection. It's amazing. How are things with Ethan?" I'd respond politely, "We're no longer in touch. I wish him well." It wasn't bitterness. It was truth. Because somewhere between letting go and moving forward, my anger had run its course. It had burned itself out, leaving something steadier in its place. Understanding. Ethan wasn't evil. He was just hollow. A man mistaking attention for affection, applause for connection. And I had mistaken potential for partnership. One afternoon, while sorting invoices, I got a call from David, a gallery owner downtown. We'd met years ago when I designed display pieces for one of his exhibitions. "Anna, hey," he began, voice cautious but amused. "You might find this funny, or not." "Try me," I said, sipping my tea. "Ethan was here yesterday," he continued, trying to sell me some furniture, said it was his design work. Recognized your craftsmanship instantly. The joints, the finish, even your burn mark logo. He said he helped make them. I laughed softly. "And did you buy any?" He snorted. "No. It was all mass-market junk he'd distressed to look handmade. Had no soul. I told him it wasn't worth anything." We shared a pause, his professional courtesy meeting my private satisfaction. Before hanging up, David said quietly, "For what it's worth, Anna, you dodged a beautiful disaster." "I didn't dodge it," I replied. "I rebuilt after it." That night, I sat at the same table I'd once built for us, the one that had been exiled to the garage because it clashed with the brand aesthetic. I ran my fingers over its surface. Each dent told a story. Late night sketching, spilled coffee, a life that was real even when it was messy. I thought about Ethan, not with hate, but with distance. He was still online somewhere, trying to rebrand again. I'd heard through a friend that he'd moved back in with his parents. His once daily posts were now reduced to occasional quotes about growth and gratitude. The world had stopped watching. He had nothing left to perform for. I, on the other hand, had no audience, and didn't need one. Weekends became mine again. I hosted small dinners with friends who'd once stopped visiting because Ethan found them boring. We cooked, talked, laughed. No one checked angles before taking a bite. There was no need to capture anything. We were too busy living it. One evening, while sanding a chair for my next order, I caught my reflection in the window. For a moment, I didn't recognize her, the woman standing steady, strong, and peaceful. I smiled. She smiled back. Voiceover, final monologue. He once told me that my life wasn't aspirational enough, that I needed more color, more drama, more story. But the truth is, I don't need to be anyone's story. I just need to be real. He saw me as an accessory, something to crop out when inconvenient. He forgot I was the frame holding the picture up, and when the frame walks away, the image collapses. Ethan wanted a life that looked perfect online. I just wanted one that felt peaceful in person. You can't have both, not when one is built on the other. So I stopped walking beside him, and for the first time, I learned what it feels like to finally walk for myself. As the credits of my old life faded out, I didn't feel loss, just space, open, quiet, waiting to be filled. The kind of space where real things grow,